You are listening to a Cult Talk Network podcast.
The Imperium. How mighty its aspect. How far-reaching its boundaries. As one world dies, 10 more are brought into the fold. Fear us, for we count the lives of planets, not men.
All right, guys, we're back with Imperium Appreciation episode 4. Hopefully, I'm going to approach this with some fucking positivity. This will be the final episode of Imperium Appreciation.
Exactly.
At least the wrap up for this timeline for right now.
Yes, that is what we are setting out with this here recording in mind.
However, we are the breaker of promises, so we will continue to lie to you. Who knows?
The changer of ways.
Yeah,
The changer of ways.
So, well, that was definitely
sneaking in.
that was definitely Eric's. That was Eric's voice doing the voices each there at that opening of that Chaos Gods episode.
Yes, little did they know I did that voice so well because I was speaking for the Chaos God Siege.
Oh my God! Shut up.
We're gonna have to take him out and back and put a bolt.
Listen, you compliment one guy's work, and he's got to like try to just.
I go crazy. It
Jesus.
goes right to my head.
Oh my God!
Godhead.
Huh, yeah.
Yep, Godhead.
But well, that's a different thing. Anyway, so today we're gonna cover. We're gonna cover 3 separate incidents that kind of bring us up to the current timeline of the Imperium. Dan's gonna lead us off with the end of the 13th Black Crusade, also known as the Fall of Cadia, which is gonna bound up to me, which I'm going to follow up with the return of Guilliman, the Primarch. Very big event. Primarch lives, and then Eric's going to close us out, and I'll touch on what's known as the Plague War, and Eric's going to follow us up with the War of Beasts, which will close us out.
Yep.
So, Dan, the Fall of Cadia. Now, I know Cadia some, but to the people that have been in this fandom, Cadia was a fixture, from what I understand.
Cadia has been around a long time.
Yeah. And Cadia is what's known as a fortress world, which is where if I were dropped into the 40K universe as an Imperium citizen and I couldn't pick something highfalutin like a Space Marine or an Inquisitor or something, like you just had to go in as a rank and file. A Forge World, or not a Forge World, fuck no, not a Forge World, but a Fortress World is where I would pick, because these are where you're just basically indoctrinated to the Imperium. You are a soldier through and through from the time you're a child,
Of the highest standards.
Oh.
And Cadia was the highest standard of that.
Wow.
Yeah. There's the Tempestuous Scions, the Stormtroopers.
Right.
They are equivalent, if not inferior, to the Cadian shock troopers, or the Carson.
Oh.
Karskin. And so Karskin is like children of the Kars, Kasr.
Right.
These are these little like special hubs on the fortress world of Cadia, and each one is like an island unto itself. They are meant to be self-sufficient. If other parts of the world are taken, these things could hold out indefinitely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So actually, let's go, Cadia is, should I start with how Cadia was found?
Sure.
Yeah.
And also, there's a reason for Cadia being what it is, and that's its really shitty location.
Yes. So Cadia is really close to the Eye of Terror.
Very close. It's like the gateway to the
So
island.
let's specify. So there's the Cadia system,
Right.
and inside the Cadia system is a planet called Cadia Prime.
Correct.
That is what most people are.
As is with most systems, they have like a system that's named after a primary planet, and then they have the prime.
So it was believed Cadia was inhabited, colonized sometime before the age of the Dark Age of technology.
So it's an old one.
And it was lost for a long time. And who would have guessed who found it? Anybody?
The Mechanicum.
Lorgar.
Oh, of course.
Really?
Yeah. Lorgar had realized he had bent the knee at Monarchia because of the Emperor. His
Oh
entire
yeah,
legion-
this would be right about that time,
He
wouldn't
was-
it? Because he started marching towards the Eye of Terror after that.
Yeah, he was going on a quest, a vision quest, to find true gods to worship.
That's right. Yeah.
So he came upon Cadia, and he met these tribes. They weren't technologically advanced, spears and clothes and stuff.
Okay, so very primitive
Yeah, but
planet.
they spoke a very similar language to what he was used to on Chagoris. That's not Chagoris. That's the Khan. I can't think of his planet. right now.
Fuck. I can't remember his home planet either. You're gonna have to forgive me, but I know. Yeah, the one with the old religion that was actually.
Yeah, so they on his home planet they worshipped four gods,
Lord
and these people in Cadia had a similar belief. They had a similar language, and one thing that was unique about them is they tended to have purple eyes, violet eyes. It's kind of similar to the color of the warp.
Colchis.
Colchis. That's
Colchis is the name of the home world. at
Logar's
least.
home planet.
Yeah, Logar's home planet. At least
Which was
my
very-
best pronunciation.
they were high on religion.
Oh yeah, so they were worshiping a really old religion that more or less sounded like the old gods.
Okay, so to speed up because we're lagging here. Lorgar talks to he meets like a priestess that kind of gets him interested in the stuff. He ends up going to the Eye of Terror, the Eye of Terror.
Yep.
And he has his visions, and when he comes out, he just carpet bombs Cadia because he doesn't want anyone to know.
Who?
So Cadia's wiped out, but he's like, "Hey guys, there's this planet really close to the warp.
We should go find.
We should go find." So they resettle
Bastard.
Cadia, and they start defending it. They know it's going to be important against chaos.
Because of its position and stuff like that.
Yeah.
By that
And,
point,
well-
yeah.
It's very close to the warp, but it's also somehow safe.
Right.
It doesn't experience the warp storms, and it's because of these. They're called the Cadian pylons.
Yeah.
They're these strange, giant monolith statues just all over the place. These pillars, and no one really knows what they do, but they think it has something to do with the warp,
And it kind of.
and they kind of want to keep an eye on it.
It provides a shield.
Okay, but they don't quite understand that at the time, but they definitely note the absence of warp activity.
Yeah.
Most likely Necron, if that's the case.
So to speed up a little bit, Cadia is settled, defended. The Horus Heresy happens, and
Yep.
they flee. The traitors all flee into the Eye of Terra. I keep saying Terra, instead
But
of
it's
Terra.
terror.
Terror. It's the Emperor filling your heart.
It's my list.
You'll live, and so will they.
Let's see. So I'm trying to get to Abaddon's first crusade. He comes back out of the warp. This is only like 100 years after the Horus Heresy.
Right.
They're able to push him back, but Cadia finds out it's not as well defended as they thought. It was actually designed off a lot of like Terra's architecture, big streets, huge castles, just like not defendable. So they tear everything down and rebuild from scratch. Everything's like kill boxes. And
I wonder who was in charge of the rebuild. Was it Rogel Dorn?
I actually didn't see.
I bet it was.
I think the article said, the greatest minds of the Imperium. So
Okay.
Dorn.
Yeah.
So all the way from like the first crusade to the 12th crusade, Cadia stands. They're able to beat back the warp time after time. They have problems every once in a while, but
Right.
They're
Enough to be
producing-
dramatic.
yeah, they're producing the best soldiers in the Imperium.
They're all about discipline.
Yeah, they
They
learn how to shoot at 5 and how to take apart a gun at 10.
Yeah, if it's
Wow.
I once heard that there was a saying on Cadia that if a Cadian citizen couldn't build their rifle back or disassemble and rebuild their rifle by 10, they were born on the wrong planet.
Oh wow.
The military culture was so prevalent that even the nobility and the aristocracy, they wore camouflage. It was in vogue.
That was part of their
Yeah.
just attire
Yeah.
through and through, huh? Wow.
So at the
These guys sound badass.
I mean, if you got to pick,
Yeah.
it's a shit sandwich no matter how you slice it, but that one's
Right.
does not have corn in it.
So to preface the 13th crusade, there's the 12th crusade.
Right.
I think the major events from that is Abaddon gets 2 Blackstone fortresses that he's able to take back into the Eye of Terror.
Okay.
Right, which we talked about
We
those in
have
the last
touched on
episode.
this. Yes. Yeah.
So at the start, these Space Hulks start showing up. I think we've kind of heard this story before, but
Yeah, we've talked about Space Hulks.
Abaddon plans. He's not an idiot, so he starts this next crusade by sowing a bunch of seeds. So these Space Hulks are all infected with Death Guard. Plague Marines.
Yeah, that's how you would do that.
Okay.
So he starts this plague of unbelief. All these people are getting sick around the segmentum obscura. He's not going after Cadia. He's sowing seeds.
Okay.
And he's getting the Night Lords out and about doing their thing, ripping and tearing and killing, scaring.
Yeah, but you know what's so I just read some books that were from the Night Lord's point of view of this, and they were actually really fucking pissed at Abaddon because he was sending them up against the Mechanicum, and they're like, they don't feel fear, you idiot. Like, there was a really cool scene in one of the books where 4 Night Lords took down a Titan, and they were just like, why are we doing this?
Yeah. Well, I think it's because, he was sending them out a shock troop.
Yeah, but that's not Night Lords.
Well, I think because really he was more concerned maybe about the Alpha Legion slipping behind enemy lines and starting infiltration. And he's getting everybody involved.
Yeah.
He gets Emperor's children are getting in on this and having these really messed up rituals.
Jam sessions.
And then not the Thousand Sons. I think it's the Emperor's children are performing these rituals, bringing in warp storms.
Oh, okay.
So all these cults are kind of starting up, and all
the Emperor's children are the word bearers.
Both.
Oh, I was going to say.
I think the Emperor's children just were there to kind of have fun.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds because they're very disorganized. They're They're kind of lost the rails.
Somewhere. Abaddon can.
He leads the Black Legion, which is just like a bit of everybody.
Yeah, and when he gets his crusades going, he can get other people in.
Well, yeah, because he's recognized as being blessed by all 4 of the Chaos Gods.
Ah, okay.
So there's a few there's a few that generally abstain, but not many.
Right. He can typically access just about any part of the pool he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the Night Lords will avoid him. Some of the Iron Hands, or Iron Warriors, will not. The ones that are pretty anti-warp will
gotcha.
sometimes
That makes sense.
sometimes skirt Abaddon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
but not always.
A lot of sabotage. There's these, just kind of mutant acting up, just cults like saying the Emperor has abandoned us, just sowing fear into people.
I like that idea of a disease of unbelief.
Grandfather Nurgle.
Yeah.
That's the Death Guard.
Cool.
Death Guard are vicious.
So one of the early kind of starting events is a raid. It's on the Orman Tep world. There's a listening station. It's a company of Black Legionnaires storm in and trying to take the place. And they actually get help from the 13th Space Wolf Company.
Oh, nice.
These guys have actually been lost in the warp for the last 10,000 years.
Oh my God! What?
Yes,
are wolfing.
Yeah, I'm aware. I'm vaguely aware of these guys.
This is 10 millennia. That's
they were.
Holy crap!
Yeah, they are the oldest still alive Space Marines. Because there's
outside of the Traitor Marines, I think.
Well, yeah, the Loyalists.
Okay. Wow.
So that's a really interesting event.
Yeah, no kidding. Those poor wolves.
So these things are happening, and the Imperium responds. They start sending in reinforcements, more Cadian shock troopers from other planets. So Cadia colonized other worlds. With that same mindset, that same high level of standard. So they bring in some of their other guys. They're getting Skitarii, Titan legions.
Cadia can call upon a hell of a force if it needs to.
And one of the big ones, these reinforcements that were coming in were the Volcari Cataphracts. Yeah, the planet of Volcari. Cataphract is it's a Byzantium term for like proto-knight.
Okay. I recognized the name, but I couldn't.
It's a big deal. These guys are special.
Well, sure.
And everybody comes out to give them a warm welcome, and they are chaos. They have turned, and they immediately start gunning down.
And what people have to remember is proto means more advanced in Warhammer.
I mean, that's a really good point.
The more you look like a knight and less like a tank.
Yeah, the
more fucked you are. Oh God.
Yeah, the older things get, the more it can devastate you because technology goes backwards in this universe.
Right.
So, god damn it.
But luckily for the Imperium, there is a colonel who survives. Colonel Earthcar E. Creed.
Creed.
You have to, yeah.
Emphasis on the E.
So he is promoted to Lord Castilian, and it befalls to him to defend the entire planet.
Oh, Jesus.
And he actually does it really fucking well. I'm trying to think. The first guy Abaddon sends to the planet is Urkanos. But I've seen two different, he's either the Lord Purgator or the Lord Reaver. I'm not sure which one's correct.
Okay.
But he's like the head of I think Abaddon's hounds. He's one of his generals.
Okay.
And he gets sent down to tear some stuff up, and he gets they're trying to stop him, and Saint Celestine shows up. The living saint. She's
the living saint. I don't think we've talked
So-
about this person.
Who? Celestine?
Celestine, am I pronouncing
Yes.
her name wrong?
Yeah.
Celestine.
Celestine. Actually, so she shows up in my story with Gilliman as well.
Oh,
the
interesting.
Because
the
this ties in directly to what happens.
Yeah, the Celestines or Celestians, whatever they're called. That's her like people. So she's a living saint who is she from?
I think she was Adeptus Sororitas originally,
Yeah.
but she is empowered by the Emperor and is like a minor demon of the Emperor.
That's right. So
Oh.
she can actually repel demons with her. She actually demonstrated the ability to repel demons with her faith,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and that made her a
she,
saint.
she has
Right.
wings and can fly, and she has a flaming sword, golden armor, and I think she can heal people too.
Yes,
Oh,
and
cool.
and so yeah,
That's badass. Awesome.
She's backed up
She's
by
basically an archangel now.
the Gemini Superior. It's like two sisters, like not literal sisters, but like sisters of
Sisters.
battle.
the Sororitas,
Yeah.
Eleanor
sisters.
and Genevieve of the Order of the Martyred Lady.
Oh Jesus!
And he actually, Urkanthos actually kills them in battle,
Oh,
but Celestine gets like a power up, and she's
Of
able,
course.
she's able to rally and take him out. Okay, so kind of while this is happening, everyone's kind of thinking about the pylons.
Right.
Abaddon wants the pylons because he knows what they are.
Right.
They can stop. They're stopping the rift from opening.
so if anything were to happen to him, it would essentially just spill out all over the place.
So it's basically they're keeping a dam plugged basically at this point.
Well, at least that's what Abaddon suspects, but nobody else is really they suspect that that's probably what they do.
Gotcha.
They just know that they're important.
I was so mad about doing this, about like getting something out of order before they really assaulted Cadia. Another planet in the system they took was Saint Josmine's Hope, and it was a prison planet. And
what a name for a prison planet.
the inmates tried to side with Chaos.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
did not work out.
Well, no, because you're just going to be sacrificed to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, they
Yep,
can.
Yep.
They can. I mean, with sacrifice, they can cause the warp to go nutty, so that the Imperium can't travel. They can summon demons. They can power up the demons they've got. They can. Like, yeah, the sacrifice is way more. Like, if they want manpower, they have legions upon legions of cultists that are already mutated and willing to do what they want and are already kind of trained by, like,
Yeah.
they don't need you guys.
Yeah.
Not a bunch of lowly prisoners.
No. Now, you might get lucky, like, if you're a penal planet and you get conquered by chaos right after they've taken an ass whooping,
Oh.
like, they might take you because they're low on that particular manpower. But if not, like, you're much better as a sacrifice.
Yeah. Carry much more value with your blood than you do your body, I guess.
Yep. Now, I also can't wait till we talk about the Sororitos. There's a lot of cool shit with them. There's some crazy.
Some of their new
Really?
models were a little hit and miss. Like there's
Oh, yeah.
one, it's like a battle suit that a Sororitas is wearing, and it looks a lot like one of the old. Sorry, I can't think of it right now. It looks like an old like Eldar model.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I wonder. So there's some interesting connections there. I wonder if that's on purpose.
Cool. Well, teaser then for the
Yeah.
Sororitas chapter?
Well, I'll be touching on it with this too.
Oh, good. Okay,
So-
cool. Leave me.
I'm trying to like fit this into the story in a way that makes sense, but it kind of doesn't because
Well, it's all right.
Belisarius Krull.
Okay.
All right, hold on. We're going to talk about Belisarius. Belisarius Krull. He is a absolutely. I have been really nice on this fandom for the entire time we've been doing this. There's very, 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 very few things in this universe that I outright hate. Belisarius Krull is such a poorly written character.
He's a Mary Sue.
He is completely. He completely is. He's this walking, talking Deus Ex Machina, and God damn it, like poor form.
Really?
Whoever came up with him, poor form. You can't. He's a mechanicum who apparently did some tutelage under the Emperor when he was still alive, although nobody knew that. And then he decided that after the Horus Heresy, he was going to hide because, I mean, nobody needs your help, I guess. And when he just randomly pops out 10,000 years later because he needs to, and he has ridiculous technology.
Just whatever he needs.
Yeah,
for the moment,
basically.
right?
Yeah, they can't explain him being in the system and having that level of technology.
No.
It's so anti-Imperium. It's so
Ah.
anti-tech. You can't-
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
I understand.
knew
I
nothing about
understand.
this guy.
I understand his purpose, like what part for the what purpose he serves. Right? It's like you need to advance the technology eventually, but not like that.
Yeah.
So Call is informed of the importance of the pylons and told to go investigate by a Harlequin, an Eldar,
Oh, okay.
a shadow seer by the name of Silandri Veilwalker. So it's a shadow walker named Veilwalker.
Sometimes these names.
So he goes to
Gross.
Cadia and he inspects the pylons. And who does he run into?
Who?
But Trazen the Infinite.
Who?
Like the Lord of all Necrons.
What?
So is this that's not the guy that collects everything, is it?
That is.
Okay, so so this guy, this is a Necron whose whole like deal, and he's really high up in the Necron lords. Like
He has a personality. He has a mind. He has-
right. So he's
Oh.
like second to their king.
Okay, and so that's pretty unusual, though, the personality.
Yeah, yeah. The higher up you get as a Necron, the more personality you gain, and the fact that he's 100% total sentient means
He's a pretty
right.
high-ranking
Yeah,
guy.
and his whole thing is he collects stuff.
Well, I'd say he's the king of his own family, right? There's a lot of different kingdoms.
Yeah, but they all
there is the Silent King.
they all answer to the Silent King, but
Okay,
but
he's
they
like the
kind
king
of
kings.
yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So this guy is actually Dan. Before we were recording, you referred to him as like a Pokemon collector. That's not a bad analogy, really.
Yeah, because he literally can throw out some of his collections to fight for him.
Yeah, they'll pop out of little things that he can throw.
Oh, no kidding. And they're like living things that he's
He's helping Call during a fight, and he throws out one of his little Pokeballs, and he has a captured Inquisitor.
What?
Yeah, from like the age of like apostasy. You know, been out of the game for like
800 years or
Holy shit.
whatever.
It's Inquisitor. I think it's Gray Fox, but it's like FAUX.
Oh, yeah. So like fake.
faux FAUX.
And
Yeah.
I think she's actually a really new character, like in the lore, like as opposed to Cadia being like a real old part of the lore.
Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
And she's just a hard ass.
Yeah. So just living beings or whatever.
Unbelievable.
Like along with Call's like I don't know veil of bullshittery, who shows up, but it's an Eldar name. You have to forgive me.
Oh, take your time. You're good.
Yvraine.
Yvraine. So is she the leader of the Gennari?
Yes,
Okay, so I will be touching heavily on the Gennari.
she's the prophet, daughter of Shades, and her idea or her vision is defeating Slaanesh with the Eldar God of Death.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
By
Eldari God
kind of
Death.
accepting rebirth and reincarnation as a concept and
Okay.
implementing that.
Which don't the Eldar already do that?
Yeah, so there is a prophecy that's their god of death, which name is like Ened, is sleeping.
Okay.
And for it to wake up, it will awaken when all of the Eldar pass and their souls are like fed into it and then it'll wake up and destroy Slaanesh.
Okay.
But the Gennari are a cult religious group of Eldar that are following this lady that believe that they believe that the God of Death is actually all of the fragments of their old gods that were killed by Slaanesh that have formed into a new god and can slumber and is sleeping. And through that, they believe that these weapons called the Crone Swords, which were created by one of their other gods, will awaken it without them having to die.
Wow. Okay.
And so they're trying to do whatever they can to find these Crone Swords to awaken this god to kill Slaanesh.
Gotcha.
And so they're also the ones that have been reaching across the aisle towards the Imperium quite a bit.
Okay. Kind of the ones that are always showing up on the down low. Like,
yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Wow. That's a pretty hefty little drop of Eldar lore there.
Right. Yeah. Without much context, guys, we're sorry. We'll get to the Eldar.
We will.
We've been trying.
That's cool, though.
Not
Holy
next
cow.
time, though.
Yep.
But anyway, so the Inari, they play a pretty pivotal. They've actually, from now on, they seem to be a pretty big player on the board.
Right. Interesting. Yeah,
although
'cause they're
I've
showing
heard
up
some
for me, too.
rumblings that they did like a Yennari book or two, and they didn't sell very well. So it seems like Games Workshop has kind of maybe pushed them to. It might. But the fact that they're tied in with like Gilliman returning, I don't know how you just put that faction aside.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, carry on, Dan.
Well, so there's all these battles happening to defend the Cadian Gate, which is the pathway through the system in and out of.
Right. That makes sense.
And not just on the planet, but all these other systems. So I feel like I couldn't do justice to any of them, so I'm kind of skipping.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh no,
Yeah,
you're fine.
yeah,
This is just meant to
broad
be brief.
strokes.
Yep, broad strokes.
Broad strokes.
So they've secured the pylons, and Trazen basically shows Call how to turn them on, and the warp starts shrinking. It starts getting smaller, or at the Eye of Terror.
Yeah.
And Abaddon is now on the back foot. He was doing well in the fight, but he has to do something or he's going to lose his retreat. So
right.
He takes his he takes one of his Blackstone fortresses that got pretty beat up. See, there's so many things that happened.
It's all right. Don't worry about it.
Another giant ship shows up called the Phalanx.
Yeah.
It is a moving asteroid piloted by the Iron Fist, Imperial Fist.
The Imperial Fist. That is their flagship.
Okay.
The Phalanx.
Okay.
But it's actually like an asteroid ship.
Just like
Like
built on an
like a
asteroid,
Dark-
or
Built
an
in. They
asteroid?
hollowed out an asteroid and turned it
Holy
into a
shit.
ship.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That sounds like an orc technique.
It's Imperial Fist, so think much more walls and
Fair
bastions
enough.
and defenses, and
Yeah.
it looks like a floating castle. It doesn't look at all like a ship.
Okay. Ooh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah. So
I love that.
I'm
I
not
can't wait
doing
to see the
justice
image of
to all the Space Marine chapters that are there fighting.
Right.
There's a whole contingency of Astartes chapters specifically to like stick around the Eye of Terror. They're called
And help hold it back.
the Astartes Praeses. That's like 20 different chapters. Iron Talons, Viper Legion, Angels Eradicant. So I just wanted to kind of mention that all this fighting's going on, but Abaddon drops the Blackstone Fortress on Acadia.
Yeah, he fucking uses the Blackstone Fortress as a battering ram. Or as an asteroid, really.
Yeah.
Just crashes that fucker right down on top of him.
Yeah, and it, planet can't take that, so planet's gone.
Yeah. Although I saw this really awesome. So when I was looking at some stuff about Cadia, I saw this really, I wish I shout out to whoever put it on YouTube, but there was this really awesome comment that says, you're badass when your planet breaks before your people do.
Oh, I love that.
I'm
I've
like,
seen that meme.
Yeah. It's like, fuck.
Yeah. So I didn't realize it was a Blackstone Fortress that broke
it.
Acadia.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, so like, I think in one of the Blackstone Fortresses, like the center of it, I believe was described as being like 10,000 miles wide in diameter.
Whoa.
That's the center of a Blackstone Fortress. So you have to think of how big
Wow. That doesn't even kind of take into account the large
the arms coming off of.
arms.
Yeah. Yes.
Jeez.
So you think with a planet falling on you, like you wouldn't have a lot of people getting out. But luckily there was a Eldari webway gate on a nearby moon. So a good contingent of named characters made it out.
Of course. Of course.
And it was an odd mix of Xenos and ecclesiarchy and
Oof.
guard regiments and
Wow.
Well, I mean, it's everybody abandoned ship. Like, you ain't got time to pick.
yeah,
That's quite a unifying factor.
it's so they call themselves the Celestine Crusade, and they move the plot forward. Creed decides to go down with the ship, and he stays on the planet. But at the last minute, Trazen shows up and says, "No, I
Oh,
have plans for you."
Jump.
Yeah, he gets captured.
Ooh. Wow. Just doesn't let him die with it.
Nope.
Aw.
not somebody of such worth.
Yeah. Huh. Well.
Yeah, and so with the
No,
pylons,
don't even.
Oh.
with the pylons destroyed, the Ioterra just splits open.
And thus comes
Oh,
the
shit.
Great Tear.
The Great Tear. Is that also known as the Great Rift?
The Great Rift. That's what I meant. Yep.
Okay.
The Great Rift.
Ooh. That kicks off my events too. I didn't realize they were
Yes.
so closely
All of
tied.
these, so yeah, all of these events, while we've picked an order, all of these events kind of happen more or less.
kind
around-
of concurrently, it sounds like.
More or less.
Wow. Cool. Okay.
There's a lot that happens in this. This shit's got nuts in it.
No kidding.
I'm looking up names. It's Grey Fax, that Inquisitor
Fax.
Fax, Greyfax.
Gray facts.
Gray facts.
I think that's about it. Because otherwise, I'm just listing. Because like there were White Scars were there, Ultramarines were there.
Right.
Because not just Cadia, it's the entire Crusade happening, and Tau are taking advantage of it.
Of course.
There's
Oh, really?
yeah, they have a front going on in the eastern sector.
Wow.
There's war going on in the Webway, and Eldar are fighting chaos there.
Oh, okay.
The orcs are always looking to, anytime there's a kerfuffle with somebody else, the orcs are always
Yeah.
looking to slip a pinky in somewhere.
Yeah, I want to apologize because I've missed so much. But
Oh, no.
The Fall of Cadia takes place over the course of a year in lore,
Right.
but it took 20 years to write the books.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
I can't believe the amount of time there that was spent writing that. But no, absolutely not. Like, it's Acadia. I've always thought, like, since we started looking into this, like, that would need its own episode to really.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
And it definitely
yeah.
will. These are just to give us
Yeah.
kind of beat points for how the timeline has
Yeah.
jumped or what's kind of happened.
And a big part of this episode kind of seems like it's to get us familiar with where the Imperium is now.
Yeah, and that's what all this
Yeah.
is.
Which really blows
Yeah.
my mind because like I felt like I had a lot of the lore down, but there's just so much in this brief span of time.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
One
So
year.
one of the things that I've repeatedly heard is like these past couple of years or this past decade or whatever in 40K lore has just gone bananas.
Well, they're
Really?
trying to move the plot along, I guess, which is there's good and bad to that.
Of
Right.
course. It has to be done, but it also has to be done with care.
Right. And it's such a big ship to try to steer too. I would
Fuck
imagine.
yeah, it is.
Like, I don't envy
So
the writers.
the survivors of Cadia are kind of moving through the webway, being led by Yvraine and
Wow.
is it McCrag? Yeah, they go to McCrag.
They go to McCrag.
They go to
Yes.
the home planet of the Ultramarines because that's where Gilliman is.
And that leads into mine.
Ooh, dun dun dun.
So Gilliman, what happened with Rabute Gilliman? Where was he? And what happened with all this? So Rabute Gilliman was the only Primarch that everybody knew where he was. He had been injured in a fight with his brother Fulgrim, who sliced him in the throat with a poisoned blade. And they couldn't save him, so they put him into stasis to keep him from dying. And
Yeah.
he was entombed, not really, because those have actual meanings in Warhammer, right? Like if you're entombed, you're in
Right.
a dreadnought. If you're interred, you're in a penitent engine. So I don't want to use those terms, but I mean, he was kind of set up there, and he became a religious icon. Like people would come to visit him while he was in stasis.
Oh, interesting.
Now, it was always thought that stasis stopped time inside the stasis field, and that's how it preserved whatever was inside it. What
Okay.
actually is happening is that it slows time down to where it's not perceivable difference to the people on the outside.
Okay.
But this had a unique kind of effect on Gilliman. as it does with Primarchs, because I believe there's a case to be made that it did this with Conrad when he was in stasis. He took kind of a little bit of a turn and he said some stuff about being in stasis that makes me think this.
Okay.
But when Guilliman was in stasis, what happened is it slows down the effects of the poison, but it didn't slow down his healing.
Oh,
so he was actually, while he was in stasis, he was able to kind of combat this poison slowly, very slowly, 10,000 years slowly.
Right.
So this leads to the fall of Cadia, where they get this inrush of survivors, which has all the people that Dan was talking about, and including the Inari and Belisarius Cole. And Cole says that he has a suit that will help. It's like a life support system that the Primarch can wear that will keep the poison at bay. But they can't get him out of the coma that he's in. Well, up steps the Gennari and their priestess. I can't remember what you said. Yvraine. Now, an interesting fact, just a little side note about Yvraine. She is known for going from being completely diplomatic one moment to be completely psychotically rage-inducing the next.
Oh.
Isn't that just Eldar?
No. Like, it's to the point where other Eldar make note of this, where they're like, she's crazy.
Oh, my. Okay, gotcha.
But this seems to be conveniently lost. Go ahead, Dan. You look like you got... What's up?
Well, I forgot to mention the name of the Blackstone Fortress. It's called the Will of Eternity. It's not important.
Will of Eternity.
It's another cool name.
But anyway, so she says she's the prophet of the Eldar God of Death, and she believes that through this she can get Guilliman to wake up, and so they have this kind of rallying. And at the same time, while this is happening, the forces of chaos have rallied because Cadia fell.
Yep.
You know, the great rift happened, and they're just spilling out, and they get whiffed of what's kind of going down. They're not real sure what's happening, but they're like, okay, we have this Eldar priestess and this new pull it out of your ass man all at McCraig where this Primarch is, and it's not good. So they're just like hurling everything they can at McCraig and the surrounding system, just trying to crush this thing. Whatever the fuck's going on, they don't want no part of it.
Right.
So in typical 40K fashion, things are crashing in. It's getting to be dark, and Guilliman wakes up.
Just on his own.
Well, they put the armor of fate.
They put the armor of fate. Yeah, they drop the stasis field. They put the armor of fate on him. They give him the Emperor's sword that Belisarius Call has, because why not?
Well, I think Yvraine had to like kill him.
Yeah. She actually like lays hands on him, puts him to death, and brings him back.
Oh, shit. That was her plan.
Nah, I mean, that's not how she pitched it, but
Well,
yeah.
have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yeah, basically, she's like, if we pull the plug and plug it back in, and it was funny because the Ultramarines were like, yeah, wait, what? Like, they were all for it. And then she kind of explained it to them, and they were like, no. And it basically came down to Calgar. And Calgar's like, fuck it, we're doing it. And everybody's like, oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Flip the switch.
Yeah, the chapter master.
Yeah.
Fucking lucky.
And because all of them said no except for Calgar. He was the only one that's like, screw it, I'm overriding all of you.
She wouldn't have made it out of the room though if that didn't work.
Hell no, she wouldn't have. Not at all. If he would have just flatlined right then and there and have been like, well, that was the end of the Inari.
Yeah.
But he shows up, but he wakes up, and I mean, he wakes up in one hell of a bad mood.
Oh no.
Like, Guilliman is known for being totally calm until he loses his shit, and then he just goes like on a rampage. Well, he wakes up like that.
Oh man, he went to sleep in a rampage. He woke up in
Well,
one, didn't he?
the Horus heresy wasn't even over
No.
when he went out.
Oh shit. So that makes sense then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So he takes off out of McCraig, and I mean, the Chaos Forces were not ready for what happened. Like, the Ultramarines rallied, and there's something in 40K about a Legion being reunited with its Primarch that seems to actually do like a physical boost to them, make them stronger, they kind of portray it as like they get this boost of will or whatever, but it manifests in a really physical manner.
Extremely physically.
And like, it goes beyond just simple, like the rallying of a symbol.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
So
there's just a noticeable
right. And
difference.
Belisarius Call, of course, is busting out technology that the Traitor Marines have never dealt with before, like grav tanks and just all this really nice shit that he's been sitting on, apparently. That wasn't important like ever before. But anyway, Guilliman spends about a year pushing back chaos out of his Ultramar, the realm that he was, the 500 worlds that he kind of had conquered before the Emperor had ever found him.
Yeah.
And before Guilliman went to sleep, he freed Ultramar, the Ultramar sector, to kind of rule itself.
Okay.
And he realized that this did not go well. Basically, all the people of all the different planets became power hungry and kind of grabbed it all and sectioned it off for itself. And it was very much a shadow of its former self. So Guilliman's like, I'm back and I'm rescinding all of this. Every treaty you signed, everything that said you operated on your own. He's like, you have fucked this all up. I'm taking it all back. Some of them were happy to have that burden lifted of them. Others were like, you can't do that. And he could. And he did. So he spends about a year getting the 500, getting Ultramar back to where it was, and just pushing chaos, like scrubbing it clean.
Yeah.
Like no chaos cults, no gene stealer cults, and the whole while, like Guilliman's catching up on everything. What the fuck is a Tyranid? What happened to Macragge? Where are all my brothers? Because some of them were still around when I left. So he's catching up on all of this, and he decides it's time. Well, no, first we'll get into the Plague War. So while he's doing this, Matarian shows up, and the Death Guard have been kind of like the big pain in the ass through this. And they do this thing called the Weeping, which is this plague that is overtaking worlds where people's eyes pus out, and then, like, it's terrible. It's just awful.
Very 40K.
It is. Your eyes weep until they rot out of your skull, and then it basically, like, eats your brain.
Oh, my God.
I'm thinking of that scene in Indiana Jones where the guys are starting on that.
That's actually, so the guy that's in all black, the leather, and he just like, yeah, that is very much what I was picturing too. It's funny that you homed in on that. I did too.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, it's a lot like that. So Guilliman shows up, like everywhere he goes, it's like his holy aura abates this disease and causes it to go away. But when he leaves, it starts coming back. And I wish I had wrote down his name, but it takes a Grey Knight. I actually think he's the captain of the Grey Knights, chapter master of the Grey Knights. Basically has to bitch slap the information into Guilliman that this is not what it appears to be, that he's being played. What's actually happening is Nurgle and the Death Guard and Matarian himself are trying to keep Guilliman from Terra, so that he will not get back to the Emperor. He won't be. So they're keeping him busy. And what Nurgle's actually doing is pulling back these diseases as Guilliman shows up and just keeping him running all over the place.
Give him that sense he's helping.
Yes.
Dirty, filthy trick.
It is. Yep. And so Guilliman decides he's had enough. Like, the losses that he takes are the losses that he takes. And I actually think this is when, and I haven't gotten to it in the book yet, but this is actually when I believe this is when the Emperor possesses him and takes the fight to Nurgle, and that's what eventually ends this whole thing.
Okay.
Or at least this fight.
Right.
And so Guilliman decides, like, I'm hauling ass back to Earth. And that leads into the craziest game of handoff that I have ever read. You have him like, I'm just going to like run through it with no explanation because, and I'm not even 100% sure that I'm getting this 100% correctly, but basically he like warp jumps onto where does he warp? So where does it start? I can't even remember.
I haven't read this.
So let me think. So they beat Matarian and they're heading back when they get stuck in a there it is. It's a warp storm. And they're being attacked by chaos just all over the place when they have to jump out and they basically come out where they come out into the middle of a Red Corsairs like base. Guilliman Guilliman has with him Grey Knights, Adeptus Sororitos, Titan Legions. Like, he has all of the forces that came from Cadia to Macragge and from Macragge to Ultramar.
Black Templar?
Black Templars.
Yeah, I didn't mention them earlier.
Yeah. This very religious zealot, like
their Imperial Fist successors who said, "Fuck the Codex, we're going crusading."
Yeah, so you're allowed to
okay.
have unlimited amount of Astartes as long as you're on a crusade. So they permanently crusade.
Oh wow, they're just always off marching.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So they have all of these Imperial forces that are fighting, and then they show up to this Red Crusaders base. Guilliman is having none of it and launches into a fight. He beats the Crusaders, but they end up getting captured and taken on this base. And then they end up being freed by Harlequins who show up.
Oh my God, what?
And so all of these people, and it's actually Cypher. Do you know who Cypher is?
He's a dark angel. Like he's one of the Unforgiven.
Yes.
Yes.
So he's like this super secret squirrel dark angel person that most people think is a heretic because wherever he shows up, bad shit happens. But it might actually be that he is trying to respond to the bad shit. We're not sure. So the Harlequins and Cypher free everybody, and the Harlequins lead them into the Webway, which then fucking starts a war in the Webway as they're trying to keep Guilliman from getting to Terra.
Oh my God.
And then they end up in a Blackstone Fortress coming out of the Webway where they end up fighting the Thousand Suns.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
And this just leads, like I said, it's like 10,000 miles in diameter. So you have Titans fighting inside the Blackstone Fortress along with the Grey Knights, along with the Harlequins, along with the Black Templars, along with like the what's left of the Cadian shock troops that like...
I have the 12 Labors of Hercules in my head, but there's another reference I'm thinking of just like one shitty situation after another.
So they're fighting all these people when Magnus fucking shows up.
Oh,
so,
okay, why not?
Yeah, so Magnus is literally like the way they describe it is as Magnus is swinging his staff or his sword and killing whatever the conglomerate of things that are, in his way, as it's swinging, it's tearing holes in reality, which demons are then falling out of.
Oh my God.
So they fight through all of this. Guilliman rallies and manages to beat Magnus back, where they enter the Webway again and then go to Luna, the moon.
Okay. Around Terra, right.
Right, so they're closer. And like they're backing out onto the moon as Magnus and the Thousand Suns are chasing them out of the rim.
Too close to home.
Yeah. And they like basically what it comes down to is like Magnus is halfway out. Guilliman like punches his ass back in and they close the gate off, shutting them out. And then they manage to get their asses to Terra.
Whoa. Wow.
I mean,
feel
it
like
is
I have to catch my breath.
Oh my God. It was, and I'm not even doing it justice. Like it is the most insane.
I'm gonna have to read this like, firsthand.
Oh my God. It's
that'll be
nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
Yeehaw.
I think I was gonna start the Infinite and the Divine and the Infinite. It's the Trazen book. I think that's because I've been reading Caiaphas Cain.
Right. So that brings us up to so Guilliman gets before the Emperor, talks to him. There's some stuff there that we're not even going to touch on. That's a whole nother ball of wax.
Yeah.
And then Guilliman names himself the Imperial Regent. He's taking control of everything. And the way it's kind of sitting right now, as it appears, as I understand it, is Guilliman is spreading these new Primaris Marines, or he has spread. He's either spreading them or he has just concluded this, which are these new type of Space Marines that Kalgor has managed to shit out once again. Call, whatever his name. Call.
Yeah, Call.
Belisarius Call managed to shit out. And they're using them to bolster all the chapters, not legions, because Guilliman's a dick. Yep. And one thing I will say is interesting, he's actually second guessing that quite a bit.
Is he really?
Yeah. He's seeing that
Too fragmented.
He's seeing that breaking things down into chapters didn't hold back chaos the way he thought it would. And so he's actually kind of wondering whether or not that was a good idea. And I'm hoping he kind of well, first of all, he's already got a legion. He just needs to quit kidding himself, because he called together like all the Ultramarines and all of their like chapters, and he's not let them go.
He does the same thing for the Blood Angels when he appoints
Dante.
Imperium Secundus. We'll get to that.
Yeah,
that's not the Imperium Secundus. That's the Imperium
Nihilus.
Nihilus.
Imperium Nihilus. Dante is head of that. The head of the Blood Angels. So he's actually kind of guessing that, and he's actually at war. Not really at war. He's at a cold war with the ecclesiarchy. He really is not happy with the Imperial cult. Of course, he's a Primarch.
Well, good on him. Yeah.
Like for him, this is completely antithetical to what his father wanted.
Right.
But he also understands that he can't go to war with the ecclesiarchy. It's too big.
Power.
Yeah, and also he's too busy. He's got too many other exterior threats that he's fighting.
Yeah.
Another internal threat that he actually is able to take care of is the High Lords. Because they try to rebel, but he just master stroke.
Oh yeah, he put that shit down with a quickness. Yeah. I think he killed like one or two of them, and he's like the rest of them. He's like, listen, I don't need any of you, and he doesn't. His brain can do the work of any of them.
Yeah,
right,
and then some.
He can get them to fall in line, but it's not like the ecclesiarchy. It's not like getting them to stop calling the emperor God.
No.
Yeah, they've spread that far too widely across the galaxy. The problem with them is, I'll bet the High Lords didn't have quite the support of the common folk either that the ecclesiarchy would typically have.
I wish I had the Photoshop skills. I'm picturing like the uncanny, like just a sad Gilliman with like Lorgar laughing behind him. But it's Tom Cruise's like where his head's thrown back.
Oh my God.
He's got tattoos all over his face.
Oh God. Get better at memes.
And
regale us with your memes.
One of the things that he hasn't found out, I'll be very interested if he does, but we found out, is that the ecclesiarchy actually has 2 word bearers that are really
dun, dun, dun.
like high up members of the ecclesiarchy that they claim they are still loyalists. But if they are, they are the only documented record of a loyalist word bearer to ever exist.
Yeah.
Well, they're loyal to the God Emperor. They're very loyal to the God Emperor. They got exactly what Lorgar wanted.
Yeah. We'll see.
Hey,
but anyway, that's where we find Gilliman.
Wow.
And this was a big deal. I kind of wish I had been in Warhammer longer so that I could fully appreciate the magnitude of a Primarch returning.
Yeah.
Right.
Another big event. He's sending out these Primaris Marines, and he wants to give a little credence to it, a little pop.
Right.
So he gets the Custodes off Terra.
Finally,
They have not been off Terra this whole time.
Wow.
I was actually telling Eric one of the things that I really like about Gilliman is he's actually not all that impressed with the Custodes right now, or at least the book I'm reading. There is a moment. There's a scene where Gilliman, a Custodes, are standing in his flagship, and anytime the human crew says anything, this Custodes is giving them like shit. Yeah. Like the guy's like one of the navigator goes, we're approximately 0.4 miles from our destination. And the Custodes goes, he's actually off by like 0.01%. And he just gives all these really snide comments. And Gilliman finally looks at him and he says, if at any time you want to take his spot, he can take yours, feel free.
Yeah.
And the Custodes just shuts up, and he actually kind of lays into him. He's like, you Custodes have spent too much time behind your walls. You have forgotten everything that you were designed to do.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's like, perhaps you should be quiet and listen. And I was like, God damn right you should. So
nice. Hey, there you go.
So that was refreshing. So I'm actually really I'm kind of sad. I'm not. I regret nothing. But I'm going to shit on Gilliman a lot less going forward.
I don't think the Custodes could get off their ass without an external force. It's part of their creation process. They're not human. Like
they're
almost like a really fancy servitor. Like in my mind, I don't know how lore accurate I'm being. Like not literally.
Well,
they're thinking
in their mind.
They're so mechanically thought minded, like A equals B equals C, and it's not movable.
Yeah, they're
it's very mechanical thinking.
Very thus and so.
Programmed to perfection and not anything beyond that or below it. And
it's actually one of their weaknesses. They're so incapable of outside thought that they can't even fight as a unit.
Oh wow.
They all fight now. They're so incredibly powerful that just one of them fighting individually is fucking retarded. But nevertheless, when engaging the Custodes, their weakness is that if they will not fight as a unit, they all fight individually as like a warrior on their own crusade.
Wow, gotcha. So you can't coordinate like that.
Not really.
Yeah.
Now the Emperor probably could. Right. He will make them work. But like as a unit themselves, they won't do it naturally. So, Eric, you're going to be covering the Wharf Beasts.
Oh, and what a beast it seems to be. The Wharf Beasts.
Yeah, I just kind of glanced over your shoulder as you were doing some research, and that fucking thing seems to cover just about everybody playing.
Yeah, just about, it seems like. So, I'll probably not doing broad strokes as I'll have to do, really.
Sure.
I probably won't touch on everybody that was involved.
I mean, I'm looking over at your notes and it says, Phase 1.
Yeah. So I've got a lot of information here. I'm going to do what I can to kind of condense it. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. This is the most organized I've been in a while.
Have at it,
We'll
son.
see. So the Wharf Beasts, we'll start by kind of going back probably a little bit for some background. It takes place on the planet Vigilus, which is in a region of the Segmentum Obscurus known as the Knockmud Gauntlet, which is near Cadia and is one of the only stable routes through the Great Rift. So it remains, so that's kind of what keeps Vigilus pretty important after the rift opens up. And Vigilus, before the War of Beasts, was a major exporter of like military defensive equipment and stuff like that.
That makes
seems
sense.
to be what it's mostly made for, particularly Bastion class force fields, which I don't know much about, but they are powered by psychers, and it seems to stop it's almost like I'm not sure. I had a lot to look into and I didn't dive too much into this, but it seems to kind of knock the invaders unconscious if they try to go through it, and that leaves them to be like annihilated by the defenders at their leisure. They're pretty boss shields. They became very popular throughout the Imperium.
Well, yeah, I would hope so.
So they were exporting a lot of that. This is technology that came from an STC that was found on the planet.
Oh, nice.
So
it wasn't a Belisarius call turd.
No, it was actually, that's kind of what confused me about that guy. It's like, well, they have the setup for the old technology to come into play whenever they want.
Apparently he's allowed to flout the rules because he's not there. He hasn't been around. So he can work on any tech and use the scientific method as much as he wants.
There we go, I guess. But this had to be discovered.
Well, they have to do it very quietly. Like in the interactions that I've read with Gilliman and Cole, Gilliman's like, you can only hide for so long, right? Like even as they're talking, he's like, I'm the Holy Regent. Everybody knows who I am. But the minute you come out, you're going to get barbecued. And he's like, well, that's why I'm not coming out. He's like, you can't keep doing this.
Yeah, you can't.
So hopefully that's the writers telling the people, like, you guys can't keep pulling him like this.
Right.
So we'll see. Time moves. Lore moves very slowly with 40K. So we will see where he ultimately settles. This is all a lot of conjecture.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry for the interruption.
No, that's okay. So they decided to bring in some advanced technology using their STC setup, which I like that better.
I do too. If you got to have a Deus Ex Machina, keep with the original.
Yeah. And so that brings the Mechanicus into play as far as this planet goes. And so that's where they're at. One of their biggest deficiencies on this planet, though, is water. They have to import a lot of water.
That's a bad.
So they're very dependent on that. And that kind of seems to come into play in the wars later on, just as far as where people are striking and stuff like that. But that might be the only mention I make of it. So then the Great Rift opens. And fucking bunch of orcs crash out of it. They just come spilling out of the Great Rift, crash through the Imperial Navy defenses that are going on there, and smash into the desert. Now, the Imperium probably wouldn't have had any trouble dealing with these guys, except that from the Great Rift, they're dealing with all of that chaos that ensues.
Sure,
the nightmares and the cults and stuff. They also had like a Gene Stealer cult that's been they've been on the planet for some centuries now, but working in the shadows and stuff.
I love Gene Stealer cults.
Yeah. So the orcs have a pretty good like a lot of them fucking die when they crash land.
Yeah, but all it takes is one.
Yeah. And they've got several that do survive, and they use the wreckage of, their other ships to kind of build these scrap cities and stuff out in the desert. And it becomes what I kind of imagine to be like a Mad Max sort of scenario out there.
You really have to admire orcs, man.
I know. They're just tenacious, and they can't really get through the force fields that the Imperium has set up there. So they're kind of free to run amok out in the deserts for a while and play. And they're led by a speed lord named Cruel Daka. Speed Lord Cruel Daka. And he basically decides he's going to lead this speed war. Although I don't know how effective it was because of the force fields at first, but he got pretty built up, established a place known as Fort Daka, and ran the desert for a while. Of course, meanwhile, the Gene Stealer cult has to. I'm sorry. So they're known as the Pauper Princes. There seems to be a pretty widespread.
Yeah,
cult.
they're a pretty famous
Yeah.
Gene Stealer cult. They show up on multiple planets through multiple systems.
Yeah.
This is my first time hearing about them.
Is it really? Yeah. Well,
Funny how
my first time
there's
too.
so much lore.
Oh,
No,
oh my
there's tons
God.
of it.
It's
Like-
infinite.
We think that they're associated with Hive Fleet Hydra. Me and Ben tried to find out
Hydra
earlier.
or
We weren't
Leviathan, I
So,
think.
Yeah. So we speculate. So the appearance of the orcs forces the cult to start making its moves. So they start doing let's see. Yeah, they begin really just making their big uprisings, and that's where they kind of start striking at water sources and stuff like that. And the Bastion class shields that have been keeping everybody safe start
To
failing because of a lot of warp storms and stuff like that, but also the cult subterfuge.
I was going to say that what Gene Stealer cults do is they
Yep.
attack infrastructure,
Yeah, and so they start bringing those down, and
which
also-
allows the orcs to go nuts.
Yep, they get some commandos into one Hive city, they're referred to as Hive sprawls, so they must be much bigger than Hive cities. But even
It's a
some orc
purple orc.
commandos get in and bring down at least one of the shields in there. So things start going crazy.
Would you-
at this point?
How would you love to have a short story from the point of view of that orc commando getting through that shield and shutting it down?
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be amazing.
That would be a funny show.
Yep. And that allows just a whole fucking flood of orcs. And in the early stages of all this warring going on, we kind of find out. See, I have this divided up into its phases, phase 1, 2, 3, so forth and so on. I might not follow that, but
That's fine.
in the early stages, we also find that there are dark Eldar getting involved. And
They're so creepy.
yeah, and this group called Geller Pox Infected, as well as Death Guard, start showing up.
So Death Guard and Poxwalkers, okay.
Yep, Poxwalkers. And so now we have a big old mess already. Big cauldron of shit going on. I say cauldron because it's of course Nurgle behind the Geller Pox infected.
Well, yeah, naturally.
Yeah. So like it seems to be a lot of the psychers that are affected. Like the Geller Pox has a lot to do with Geller fields, which is how they're protected in the warp, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
Yep.
So meanwhile, I have it in my notes, phase 2, an Eldar by the name of Farseer Anvir. I don't know if either of you know this character.
That's a new one on me.
Yeah. So he convinces the Seer Council of his people. He's regular Eldar, not Dark Eldar.
Sure.
He convinces them that they need to assassinate a chaos cult leader by the name of Vanadan the Firebrand. And he's a Zeech cult leader. But he's like, this guy has to die because they have prophecies that make
The
planet
Eldar
important to
basically they operate their entire society based off prophecies. It seems like.
So he convinces them that this is pretty important. So they're like, okay. And they allow it. They kind of back his plan. He goes in. He does assassinate this guy. But unfortunately, the Imperium has no idea what's going on because they show up and just wipe this dude out and everyone around him. Yeah. And the Imperium's like, fuck, more Dark Eldar, because the Dark Eldar have been harassing everybody throughout the whole war. So they don't ask any questions and start shooting at the Eldar, who are like, wait, no, hold on. And then they're like, well, never mind, fuck you. And everyone just starts firing at each other. The Eldar pull a retreat and vow revenge, and stuff like that. And so while they're kind of dealing with those Eldar, of course, the Dark Eldar keep up their raids, and their raids escalate to the point that they're now known as the Caravans of Pain.
Oh, Jesus.
It's just cycles of these horrific raids by the Dark Eldar. And of course, just the fighting with the orcs and the Gene Stealers continues on. It sounds like there's a lot of cool stuff that happens, like a great big, like, somehow this guy named, I have his name written down as Fane. Anybody familiar with that character? I'll have to find out more about him someday.
Yeah.
He leads a big old, like, covert strike of knights. And I say covert, right? Isn't that kind of surprising?
Yeah.
Using like trench systems and dust storms to kind of strike deep into the heart of the orcs. And there's
that's an
there's
interesting
cities.
use of knights.
I know, right? So that went pretty well at first, but eventually they kind of, got surrounded. They're getting overwhelmed, which prompts people like the White Scars and the Raven Guard to go in and kind of back them up, turns things around a little bit, but eventually they do still have to retreat. So there's some cool stuff that happens in there. And while all this shit's going on, and we've already got some infected coming in and stuff like that, there's signs of more chaos coming in. So now nightmares and shit like that have started increasing, and psychers are responding in poor ways and stuff. And we know that chaos truly arrives the moment that his name is Harkin World Claimer. He is also known as the Herald of the Apocalypse. He announces to every living being on that planet, somehow, right?
Psychic
chaos.
nonsense.
He had a demon linked to Voxcaster.
Thank you. That's what it was.
There it
Yes.
was.
He announces to everybody that he's there and that Vigilus belongs to Abaddon, who will be arriving to claim it.
Oh boy.
No secrecy, just does it. And then it becomes a full bore chaos attack thrown into the ongoing mix. I have the Night Lords were there. Apparently the word bearers were too. Then Abaddon shows up eventually. So I'm skipping a lot of finer points. Okay. So then we get to this thing called the Void Claw. Dan, are you familiar with Void Claw?
I've heard it, but
okay. And I'm not terribly familiar with it either, but it is a weapon from the dark age of technology that is located in this area, and Abaddon wants it. He ends up getting his hands on it throughout the course of the fighting and uses it. He fires it at a point between Vigilus and its moon, and it creates like this gravitational singularity that just causes a bunch of fuckery in space. So that's bad.
Gravity weapons,
yeah. We've got Calgar. Do we know Calgar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chapter master of the Ultramarines.
Yeah, he's the one that the one that said nope, bring him back.
Right. So he's now playing a big role in what's going on. He ends up forging a deal with Farseer. Lost his name, but the Eldar from before who came in and assassinated the guy. So he forms a deal basically with the Eldar, and it kind of helps to turn the tide on things. And that's kind of where we are.
It's still ongoing.
Point. It is an ongoing war now. But apparently the Eldar and the Imperium are now kind of allied with each other thanks to the workings of Calgar, who plays a really big role in what happens on Vigilus. I have severely underplayed him.
That's all right.
Yes.
That's all right. I'm sure we're probably going to end up covering him just as a person.
Right. Yeah. He sounds like a pretty interesting guy.
Well, yeah, he was around during when the Tyranids. He was the one that killed and fought the Swarm Lord. Although I actually think
he lost a hand in that fight. Yeah.
Oh,
maybe both.
Interesting.
He has these giant fuck off gauntlets with bolters on them.
Oh.
Although I actually think they ended up retconning that, and it was an Ultramarine that was pretending to be Calgar or such nonsense.
I can see that.
Oh my god!
Interesting.
I know there's a really old picture of him in the lore, and it's him on a throne, and he's got it might even before the Tyranids were introduced, but it's like a dinosaur. I'll just look up Barney's Calgar.
But so that brings us kind of around to what's going on with the Imperium. We have the Octaris War.
Yep. Yeah.
That is still going on, which of course is the gigantic death match in the Octaris sector between the Orcs and the Tyranids. That's got absolutely everybody going on it. The World Eaters are there. Yeah. The Eldar are there. The Dark Eldar are raiding there. The Necrons have just showed up.
Oof.
So
shit's hitting the fan.
Yeah. So
just all over the galaxy.
The Imperium just lost the second most important planet in their Imperium. I mean, don't tell Mars, but
who's that?
Cadia.
Yeah. Yep. It all kind of fell apart after Cadia fell, didn't it?
Well, I mean, that the Great Rift just
Yeah.
caused so much problems.
Yeah.
It cut the Imperium in half.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this up with kind of just what are our impressions on the Imperium? What makes the Imperium of Man such a unique entity in the world of fictional lore compared to other kingdoms?
Ooh, yeah.
There's a lot.
There are, other kingdoms in lore. I'll tell you what. One of the things that I really like about them is that kind of they follow this pattern that I'm sort of seeing in like Kingdoms of Man in different lore, where it's like the old days where it's almost like an Atlantis syndrome. They got really built up in technology and advancement, and then it all came crashing down. And then the current Kingdoms of Men have like, they're rediscovering some older relics that it's like, oh, maybe we'll get a boost from this. But
it's set.
cool.
And it's set in a backdrop where their technology is ridiculously advanced by our standards.
Right.
But they're still operating on a level that's far below what they used to operate on.
Right. Yeah. You see that in The Lord of the Rings with the Numenorians. They were a very advanced people until they fell. And then Gondor is just basically a little bit of a remnant, really, of what that used to be.
Well, the anti-AI faction, that's right out of Dune. They had a
Oh yeah.
They also had a war in the past where they had to fight against machines.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah, and I will be
cool.
the first one to say I don't know shit about Dune.
Yeah, no.
Although I'm really interested in Dune.
I've only read the
Yeah.
first book because the whole series kind of jumps the shark eventually.
Yeah,
Oh, gotcha.
I
Okay.
have heard that from multiple people.
Yeah.
But I heard that.
But the first book was massively
a psychic
influential.
god emperor ruling over an emperor, a galactic empire of men, humans.
Oh, no kidding. Really? Those are some there you go.
Deep cuts. But to that, I will say, we were talking about this earlier before we started recording. What they seem to have done with Warhammer 40K is they borrowed things from history and fiction to create this thing. And Dan put it, he said, not in a way that's like a thievery. And I would agree. I don't think they
Right.
stole it. I think they wanted to take the best of everything available, fiction and nonfiction, to create this really crazy universe.
Yeah.
And to me, they did so.
Yeah. Because there really is, like, we say a lot among ourselves, like, there's something for everyone in Warhammer, but there's something for everyone in the Imperium. They're able to they've got this faction. You don't think necessarily?
I think people that love peace and personal choice.
Fair
Well,
enough.
okay, but that's
fair enough.
That's not going to be. Then 40K is just simply not for you. There's no faction that encourages free thought. There isn't.
But they have like a lot of diversity in culture, like in their culture. It's just kind of neat how they kind of were able to set that up now.
Yeah,
'Cause
there's a
this
lot of
galaxy's
factions
expanding,
inside
but-
of the faction,
Yeah, like Star Wars doesn't really. They've got a lot of varying cultures too.
but they're all separate.
Yeah,
Like once you get
right.
into the Empire is the Empire. The Rebels are the Rebels.
right.
There's not these different structures that are also kind of within each other trying to fight and have it
Right.
out.
Yeah,
So 40K is an onion.
it is an
Built on
it's got
layers.
layers.
And they've made it so the lore can constantly be redone and be like, it's the Imperium.
Yeah, it was propaganda that you were hearing before.
Knowledge is lost, things are mistold, things are
Rediscovered
forgotten,
or made up whole cloth.
Yep.
and it leaves room for anyone to like make their own chapters at home. They
Yeah.
could, they left
You
it
can-
so there are 2 missing Primarchs, so people can make their own Primarchs.
You can make your whole.
Yeah.
You can make a whole planet.
Mhm.
That's just completely your own hive city, which is like basically creating your own country.
Right.
You can have
Yeah.
a regiment that's like a specific planet in the lore,
Yeah.
specific commander, or you can just make it whole cloth.
Yeah. And it all fits because it's just huge and diverse.
And they draw heavily upon anything and everything. You know,
Yeah.
like a lot of the Imperium is kind of based off like Rome or Byzantium.
Most definitely. And then you get into like the Catholic Church.
Oh yeah,
The way
Yeah,
it
definitely.
ruled during the Dark Ages and stuff is definitely
Yeah,
the
it's got
ecclesiarchy kind
very
of flavors
much-
to it.
very much a medieval Catholic Church vibe
Yeah.
to it. Where it's
and
like,
if you're like You can go with sci-fi because you could field like winged hussars on horseback if you wanted to.
You really could. Yeah, I was going to bring up that point because you've got feudal worlds where
yes,
just
that's actually one of the more common. Yeah,
yeah. And
or you could do the Belisarius crawl and come out with hover tanks and
the Belisarius crawl.
Yep. And then you want a World War II aesthetic. Boom, there it is. World War I.
You want World War I? You have the Death Corps of Krieg.
Yes. Ooh, yes. Can't wait for their chapter.
And this is more, Necromunda, but like the Hiver gangs.
Yep.
On the Hive City.
That's one thing that Eric says that he really enjoys about this is the fact that you can zoom in as close in as you want or as far out as you want.
Yeah. You could have like back alley street gangs that are just
you could have a whole like cyberpunk like stealing data, trying to hack into computers and stuff.
And it doesn't make a ripple any higher than 2 like floors in this Hive City.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's just absolutely crazy the amount of layers.
And you could do that without ever referencing like anything because a lot of them don't know about chaos. So there's whole planets, there's whole Hive planets that think that Xenos are just a fairy tale.
Right.
They don't know that there are orcs, Eldar, and all this shit out there.
Right. Yeah.
They think Space Marines are a myth.
They do. Yeah.
Angels.
Yeah. Oh, man. Like, a lot of the stuff is like, if it showed up, it would be something that they would talk about on their planet for centuries in the same way that we talk about like Greek mythology.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you can go all the way down to a local Hive lord.
Yeah.
Crime syndicate.
And this is kind of outside the Imperium, but just all the warp weirdness. You could do all sorts of weird stories, time travel and dimension hopping and you could have it like a whole like kids adventure of, like a kid going to a magic school and learning the way. And then
little Timmy gets sucked into the warp.
It turns out Miss Frizzle from Magic School Bus is really Zinch.
Harry Potter and the Chaos Gods.
That'd be awesome.
Harry Potter and the Void Claw.
Find out Harry is actually Cabanda.
It was me the whole time. Cabanda.
But no, and I think one of the final points for the Imperium is that one of the things that they do incredibly well is they make sure that nobody is the good guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, there are good guy regiments in the Imperium. You can look at like the Salamanders and even the Blood Angels to a slightly lesser extent.
Right.
They are very heroic and they really do try to the Iron Hands.
Yeah.
The Ultramarines, they work very hard at trying to protect humanity. Even, the Salamanders are the nth degree of that. But whatever. There are heroes, but when you zoom out at the Imperium as a whole, it's just not there.
Right.
Gilliman, and that's one of the things that Gilliman, right to this very moment, is kind of stressing about.
Yeah,
right.
I don't want to say it's probably not 1-to-1, but for like every hero, there's a villain.
I would say it's 100-to-1.
You could absolutely frame the Imperium in a way that makes them the villains of your story,
easily,
very easily. Yeah. Like you could make, you could make a character that is just the Imperium would consider them scum of the fucking earth.
The servitors alone.
Oh my god,
are an affront to
any
that body
decency.
horror stuff I put in the back of my mind, and then I'm like, oh, a servitor just walked by, like,
like cherubs.
Yeah.
Even though they're vat grown, that's still an affront to humanity. We would consider like if somebody came up with a vat grown baby that had mechanical wings and was like this robotic, like we would burn them at the stake now.
Oh yeah,
or just like. I don't know, like a scribe spends his whole life learning how to like write, and then they turn him into a printer.
Yes.
Oh,
so he just does that for all eternity.
That's all he's doing. They're just using his arm and his like frontal lobe to, whatever.
There's these people that get obsessed with like uncovering knowledge. So what they'll do is once this kind of obsession with uncovering knowledge develops, they'll drop them off on library planets. And just hook a documentation machine and just let them go and actually feed them that to where they'll eventually just die amongst these stacks of things.
Yeah, wow. They'll be transcribing and cataloging and try to condense, and then you just like collect the product and maybe replace it with a new one.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I think it might be safe to say the Imperium is like responsible for worse atrocities than like most antagonists that you'll find in other lore.
I think that's an easy
I
claim
think
to
that's
make.
very safe to say.
When I mean, all you have to do is look at Crippen.
Yeah, right.
One man,
Completely-
Inquisitor Crippen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And one man, you don't know who Crippen is?
doesn't ring a bell.
So he wasn't with us on the
Oh,
team.
I guess
Okay,
not.
so
Okay, right, yeah, that's
they're-
right.
okay, so
We're missing a
Inquisitor
book,
Inquisitor Crippen was the first one to really figure out the Tyranids.
Yeah.
And his kind of response to this is he was going to create a fire break by exterminating 100 planets that were in front of Hive Fleet Leviathan, just leaving them sterile rocks.
Now I remember that event.
Yes.
I couldn't get the name. Yeah.
So he's the perpetrator. behind
He's the
that.
guy that did that. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
have
Taking out
one
entire planet, exterminating a planet.
Yeah.
Everybody on there.
100 planets.
to save a million more.
Yeah.
So each
yeah.
So each hive planet could have up anywhere from 5 to 10 hive cities on it. And each hive city could have between 2 and 5 billion, that's with a B,
Capital B.
people on it. And he genocided the entire planet 100 times.
Yeah.
If even 4 or 5 of those were hive planets,
That would be like
trillions.
annihilation of humanity on a scale that we here on our planet know not. the
Well,
kind of
we don't
numbers.
have the
We don't have the
equivalent. We don't have the
numbers.
equivalent of
Yeah.
on our Earth to the equivalent of half of a hive planet.
Right.
2
right.
hive cities. We could have. There's probably
Earth right now is a hive city.
Right.
Yeah.
Earth right
And
now.
probably
the
not even a
population
full
of Earth
hive
is-
city.
We need to step our game up.
Yeah. We could maybe fill up a hive city in another decade or so.
Yeah, and this guy's just rocking them
nothing.
just for like that by itself. That's one guy.
Yeah. That's one dude. Right. That's a great point.
Yeah, the weird mix of the powerless and the powerful, like people with unilateral like decision-making abilities that affect entire sectors and planets.
And then people have, and then the other end of the spectrum, and there's very little in between.
Right.
The best you might hope for is raising the ranks in the guard,
Yeah,
or
and that's if you even survive.
getting a nice grant with the Mechanicum.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Oh, I would stay away from the mechanic. Oh my god.
Oh, dude, more
They're-
body horror.
They are so cruel.
Yeah.
They are so cruel.
Chemical gelding.
Oh my God.
Yeah, deeper, just dehumanization, really.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Anything they
The
can
flesh
do
is
to become
weak.
less human.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in just this.
Yeah.
They make the Mechanicum the Mechanicus make Skynet look cuddly
Oh yeah. That's a yep. They do.
because
Run
Skynet
around
would.
in Da Vinci ass.
Yeah.
flying
Yeah,
machines.
like
I would rather Skynet than the Mechanicum. Yeah. Yeah.
and they're part of the good guys.
Yeah. Those are the good guys.
And so that really is what I think makes the Imperium kind of unique amongst lore is they are
Yeah.
the good guys, but goddamn.
Yeah.
I mean, God, the Mechanicum is like an empire within the Imperium.
Yes.
Right.
They're yet another faction, but they're a kingdom amongst
Right.
factions.
With a lot of pull too. Like, yeah.
I think a good place to be would be some sort of nobility on a feudal world.
On a feudal world, yeah.
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 Then you're not a peasant.
Yeah, but then you have the thing where what if you're on a feudal world that gets discovered by the Imperium? Like, what do you do then? Because
Yeah.
you have the option to accept, not accept. Like,
Yeah.
if you have a religion on your planet and it's tied to chaos and you don't even know it, the Imperium is just going to wipe you out. They're not going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
And that being said, I think like that's one of the cool things that it then allows in this lore, because then the heroes, the good guys, the ones who actually do have some sense of moral or virtue to them, however rare they may be, they just stand out all the brighter.
They shine all the brighter. Yeah. And that's true.
Yeah.
Like, I think for me, for mine, if I was going to pick a shining hero, it would have to be Dante of the Blood Angels.
Oh yeah.
The dude is over 1,000 years old, which is ridiculous for a non-stasis, like warp trapped Astartes.
Wow. Yeah.
And the guy is just so tired. Like, his daily prayer to Sanguinius is just let me die today.
Oh.
But he realizes that Sanguinius finally came to him and said, like, you have this greater purpose. You have this thing. I can't tell you what it is, but you have this purpose that you're there for. And until you fulfill this purpose, I can't let you die. I'm sorry.
Oh man.
And so
Poor
he
guy.
he's in charge of the Imperium Nihilus. Like
Yeah,
he's
on the other side of the rift.
on
cut
the-
off from
yeah.
Astronomicon.
Gilliman left him in charge, and he's like, I have to defend this.
He's gotta
And
stay
so
alive and hold it together.
yes.
Man, poor guy.
And he does it without complaint, without a single, like he never gives in. He never, and just character. He's by no means the only character like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But
right.
it's exactly what you said. They shine
just-
all the brighter because the amount of shit lying around
Yeah,
them.
he's a great example of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of another character, but there's just so many.
There are. Yeah, there's a lot of good
there's
examples.
Sanguinius.
Yeah.
There's
I mean, even like I was going to mention Caiaphas Cain. Like,
Caiaphas.
he's like he thinks he's a coward. He considers himself a bad person, but he always steps up. He always tries to do the right
There's
thing. It might be out of self-preservation, but it helps
He
himself
still
and
does.
people around
Yeah.
him.
there's Yarick.
Yarick. Yep. Commissar Yarick.
Oh, there's the legendary Sly Marbo.
Oh, Sly Marbo. Well, we almost made it through like the whole volume without mentioning him.
Without Sly Marbo.
He snuck in there at
Like
the
the
very-
first.
He
yeah.
snuck in.
Snuck in at the end. He got us.
Who is Sly
That's
Marbo? I'm not. I refuse to spoil that. That is too good.
awesome.
If you don't know who Sly Marbo is, and it's spelled SLYMARBO, go look him up and enjoy him for yourself.
There you go.
They are very well. If you go, oh, that's just a rip. Shush. It was a deliberate. Just shush. So I think we should
love
end
it.
with Sly Marbo.
There we go. Okay. We'll do that. There we go. That has been the completion of our very first volume of Cult of Lore.
It is. That is our. That is
book 4.
that is a rundown of the Imperial history.
Yeah. Look for like, I'm gonna be putting all 4 of the books together to
Do
make
one
complete
one
volume.
huge long.
I swear I'll figure out how to do it. There's a way. I know there is. You could put timestamps in there, so I'll break things into chapters, categories, so that you
Right.
can kind of click around. I wonder how long it's gonna be.
Good luck, man.
I know. Oh man, it's gonna be a beastie boy.
It's gonna. I'll bet it
Yeah.
pushes 7 hours long.
cool, neat, yay.
Yeah. And we
So it may not drop the same day that book 4 does.
fuck no. Oh no
But-
no. I would.
But
I would be okay with that being
next.
its own release.
There we go.
Because that's gonna be a chunky boy.
Yeah, it will be.
Just some quick housekeeping. We just laid out our cult schedule for October.
Yes.
We've got some cool things. I'm gonna go ahead and start plugging that now because it's never too early.
There we go. Yeah, you're right.
We've got some cool stuff in the works for that. We've got a very creative project that Eric came up with involving our quotes that we're going to be working on. I'm not
yes.
going to elaborate on that too much, but we've got Michael doing some editing. We've got Ty who's wanting to get in on the visuals. He does all of our
sweet.
advertisements and stuff. And we're wanting to do something very extraordinary, or at least I don't know about extraordinary. Let's not toot our own horn. But for us, it's extraordinary.
Yeah,
We've never
right.
done anything like this before.
Yeah.
So we've got that. That'll probably be released in October. That's going to be a hell of a workout.
Yeah.
Dan, you're hearing this for the first time, but we're probably going to be recording in Mansfield State Reformatory.
Oh, cool.
yeah.
So
If for anyone who doesn't know, that's where they filmed Shawshank
Shawshank
Redemption.
Redemption. It's a abandoned haunted prison. We're going to be doing an episode of Weird Shit there, most likely. But that night, we figure we would record the Halloween episode of Cult of Lore for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is actually, I'm going to go ahead and start plugging that now as well, because that's going to be way different. Our Halloween episode is actually going to be, it's not going to involve 40K or any fictional lore that we've covered this far. It's actually going to be a deep dive into the origins, the history, and the modern embracing of the werewolf.
Yes.
The classic horror movie monster.
yes.
Oh,
it'll
that
be-
sounds great.
yeah,
Yeah.
highly comparative and
Yeah.
yep, diving into that. So I'm very excited. for
That's Eric's project. He's wanted to do that for a while.
We've been
and
talking about that for almost as long as we've been
Been
talking about
doing Cult of Lore.
Yeah.
So we thought Halloween would be an excellent time to try that.
You could touch on the wolfen. So there's
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yep.
Ties-
There we go. So
Warhammer
40K will
in there.
probably.
everything is in 40K.
It is.
Everything. Yeah.
It
that's
is.
a great example.
So
of
we're
that.
gonna start hyping that now. That's just a little bit of housekeeping. What's coming down the pipe?
Yeah.
Timeline. What is our next timeline? Now that we're done
Ooh.
with the Imperium,
Okay.
anybody got a vote? Who do we cover next? The Eldar, the Necrons, the.
Don't ask me. I could.
Ooh, maybe our listeners will have to either leave a comment and vote themselves, or wait and find out.
Yeah.
Because there are some. Yeah, Eldar would be a good one.
Eldar is the next contingent because we've been putting them off for a while and they're a pretty big player.
Right. Yeah, they have shown up in every single episode.
Especially with the Gennari,
yeah.
They've kind of come back into resurgence.
Right. And today definitely showed me that I have a lot to learn about the Eldar.
Oh fuck yeah.
I think focusing on the Eldar would kind of, it ties in the old ones.
Yep.
The
It allows us to go back to the war in heaven.
and every
there
there's
we go.
a lot.
They would be a great interconnecting web of each faction. Oh God, the dad jokes. I'm sorry. I made it through almost a whole episode, I feel like, without making a dad joke. Guys. I'm
almost.
so sorry.
You made an hour and 47 minutes in.
Sorry.
But we'll go ahead and wrap that up now that we've filled your ear. Check us out on all of the things.
All of the things.
The Instagrams, the Facebooks, the MySpaces, the...
MySpace. Oh, could you imagine? Just our lost.
I don't know, guys.
Check out Eric's OnlyFans.
Yep.
It's a lot of hair.
Subscribe.
A lot of hair.
A lot of hair. Yeah,
But-
at Cult Talk Net in the Google machine.
I am not the technology guy, but as I understand it, if there is a thing, you can Cult Talk Net us, and we're there.
Yes.
We're actually going to be uploading Cult of Lore onto Rumble probably here soon.
Right. Yes, we will be beginning that
So
process.
we're going to be trying that. So just catch us out on all the different places. Our next episode is actually going to be a character dive on Conrad Kurz. He's going to be our next chapter.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, so
I've been looking forward to that.
I
for a
have.
while.
I've been resisting talking about him, but no longer.
Yes.
Now that we're done with the Imperium, I can do some
You are now
Imperium stuff.
free.
I am.
Free
Yes.
to speak on Conrad
on
in full.
Well, the Horus Heresy is going to be just a thing that I gonna have to
my
chop
God,
up into
yeah.
pieces. Lest people get tired of hearing it.
I'm going to try to force my book club to read that with me.
Ooh, there you go.
You know, it's up to like 80 books now, right?
Jeez, what?
Is that like in like one order, like one set, or is that like 100 different like stories going simultaneously?
So they actually have a read order, but it's dude.
Oh,
I don't envy that task. Like, look up the read order first before you spring that on somebody.
Yeah, it's very considerate.
That would be like coming at a girl with an 18-inch dick and not like prefacing this. People will be like, "Oh, we're gonna read this book series." Yeah, sure. The fuck. Anyway, we've Midwestern goodbye this long enough.
we have.
So, guys, I'm Ben,
I'm Eric.
I'm Dan.
and this is Cult of Lore episode
Book 4.
Book 4 of Imperium
Volume 1.
Appreciation. The wrap up. I was correct. We did finish it.
We did.
This is
We
our
did
first
it.
promise that we, like a stepdad, we finally got one in.
We kept it. Now let's see if it releases on the day we say it's
It
going to.
fucking won't. But that's okay. We are consistent in our inconsistency.
Yes.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
listening.
guys.
Thanks,
so much.
guys. Have a good night.